I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 22 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Chris.
I'm Pooja.
And in today's episode, Ed from Florida asks if we pick a system or a story first. Eric from New Jersey shares an origin story. And from the archive 2019, Zombie Heart wants to know how to keep players engaged for combat. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can post in the mailbag channel of the Discord at happyjacks.org/discord. Please send us in some stuff. We want your stories, we want your questions, we want your topics, we want your hot takes, we want all the things. But
Just
mostly-
write us.
Yeah, just write us. Right, we're running a little bit low on content, friends. Please send us some things to address on the show. So, yeah, please. Announcements. JackerCon 2025 will be held the week of August 4th through the 10th. So usually it's just the weekend, but we've decided to spread it out a little bit for the multi-time zone love of our very large podcast community that needs time spread out a little bit more. So it's free, it's safe to play in. We have safety tools required for every single game. Most of the games are generally happen on the weekend, but like I said, kind of spreads out a little bit. And yeah, it's fun. Come join, free, just on the Discord, happyjacks.org/discord. There's already a couple games posted too, which is very exciting. And then a bunch of people in chat are talking about, I think I'm going to run this, or what should I do for this, or what do we want to do in this time zone, friends? So yeah, go and...
Anything in particular that jumped out?
Not yet. It's still early stages. We just announced, in the last few days, the days, so people are mostly talking. But it's very exciting. Also, we moved the Happy Jacks website to a news hosting service. And it broke a lot of the old show links. Super, super fun, friends. So I'm going to spend the next few weeks redirecting and fixing one by one all those old show media files. So if you're trying to listen to something from before 2022 and it's not working, just give it a little bit of time. Give it time. I just have to go in and find the audio file and relink it to the post, and find that audio file and relink it to the post about 800 times.
Well, you had plenty of spare time, so...
I do. I do. So much free time.
It's not like Kimmy's ever
You need
doing
an
anything.
intern.
I do.
It's
I need
Kimmy,
an
an
intern.
intern.
Do you want an intern for no credits and no money?
Not legal in California.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm doing that. So if you're trying to listen to something from the olden days and it's not working, I know. Thank you. I appreciate you telling me. I know. And I will try and get it done as fast as possible. And I'll be posting in Discord and on social media and stuff as I finish stuff. I think I'm going to do it like an AP at a time and like a season at a time.
That's a good
Just try and check it off. Be like, hey, season 29 is now available again. Okay. The Tomorrow Legion is now available again, whatever it is. So we'll go through it. All right. Indie Designer of the Month. Our Indie Designer of the Month this month is J Dragon. She None from Possum Creek Games. You can find more information about her on Blue Sky at jdragsky or on jdragsky.tumblr.com or on patreon.com/possumcreek or possumcreekgames.itch.io. Today's product we're going to be talking about is Wickedness. Wickedness is a peculiar tabletop game written for exactly 3 players and 1 tarot deck, with no dice and no GM. Together you'll form a coven between 3 mystical archetypes: the innocent and gentle pure heart, the volatile, revelrous wild spirit, and the uptight scholarly old soul. And try and keep your world of magic and mystery in balance with the mundane world, in spite of its ignorance, poverty, and violence. Wickedness uses a bespoke tarot drawing system loosely inspired by J. Dragon's Sleepaway and is a distant descendant of Belonging Outside Belonging framework. You can get it for $20 at possumcreekgames.itch.io. And I do know Jay is now and Possum Creek Games is now a imprint of Steve Jackson Games, but we arranged for them to be an Indie Designer of the Month before that happened. So we're just talking about her smaller games a little bit, just a little smaller games. Now that she's made it big in the tiny TTRPG industry. So anyway.
Well, congratulations, Jack.
Yeah,
That's
super
great.
cool. Yeah, very exciting. All right, mailbag number 1. Someone besides me should talk.
You gonna jump into it? I can do it.
All right,
Did
very
you wanna
good.
Do you want to
Welcome,
do the
Chris.
short one or the long one?
Do mailbag number 1.
I'll do the short one.
That's the next one. The first one. Number 1. That's what 1 means. Thank you. Counting.
Hello, Happy Jacks. Do you let the rules of the game you run determine the flow of the story, or do you try to pick the rules that support the story you are trying to tell? That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to sit on that for a sec. As an example, the hero system allows for granular detail in combat, but does not flow as quickly, in my experience, for generic fantasy games. It definitely works for both, 2 campaigns over 1.5 years, but systems seem to encourage specific story styles. I agree with that. Just ask about how every halfling I ran in Warhammer Fantasy roleplay wound up chopping off the head of an enemy, leading to my philosophy that halflings have a secret death chop that they teach their potential heroes. But coming back to topic, do you pick a system to carry your story, or do you change your story or system to support what you're trying to do? Ed from Minnesota, who's now in Florida. I'll bet it's a bit warmer. P.S. A gamer I helped bring into our little cult, we're not a cult, are we a cult?
Kind of.
Oh.
Has learned that his propensity to roll
We're a good
ones.
cult. I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I think technically to be a cult, because I watch it and pull in a lot of true crime and a lot of it's cult related. I think technically to be a cult, there has to be a charismatic leader that is profiting off of
The
others.
labor of its
labor.
members.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a spiritual prophet?
I feel like
That
that's
is
just,
not
yeah,
that is not a
that's-
requirement. I watch the knitting cult lady on,
Yeah.
on Instagram all the
I
time.
love her. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So we have a charismatic leader, but I'm not making any money, so I don't think we're a cult.
I think you're making spiritual money. We have lost my place.
Invisible money. That's what spiritual
That's
money.
fulfilling. Yeah.
Fulfilling.
Yeah.
We were on the
You're doing
BS.
this for exposure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Excellence.
Anyway, this person that has been put into our cult, the propensity for this person to roll ones on a d20 only adds to the story, not detracts.
Okay.
He now gets more excited to roll a 1 than a 20 because he knows it's going to only add to his excitement and to the complication of the story. Okay, I'm kind of old.
Your
What-
mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
YMMV. I just learned something. But I count that as a win. PPS, if appropriate, name your drink and rate it 1 to 10. I am on Woodbridge Pinot Grigio, a solid 6. Hope you are all well. This is an Americano, black.
Oh, nice.
Spindrift, sparkling water, grapefruit, 10 out of 10.
Aspire healthy energy and strawberry watermelon.
I think mine's a 4. What's yours?
I mean, caffeine wise, it's a 9. That's exciting for me. I've had a
It's so
long day.
important.
It's so important. Taste wise, like a solid 5. Health wise, probably a 1.5.
Here's the thing about Americanos. They're called Americanos because there's too much water in them.
Oh.
And in Europe, you're not supposed to put so much water. In fact, the Americans are always, they accuse us of using too much water in our coffee. So I found, if you're European and you want less water in your Americano, you order 3 shots.
No,
And then they put in less water,
but more caffeine.
but more caffeine.
So much more caffeine.
I feel like that's very on brand for America. We're just like, water it down. We can sell more coffee without using as many beans. Like,
Capitalism.
yeah, it's like even the coffee is fucked up by capitalism. God
Right.
damn it. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Post script. Rhinos try to stamp out fires whenever they see them. Imagine how this could change your ettercaps. Ooh.
Oh.
All right, well, back to the principal question.
Oh, yes. So, do you let the rules of the game you run determine the flow of the story, or do you pick the rules that support the story you're trying to tell? I have definitely done both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a how do you view it. I tend to view game systems as toolkits.
Mm-hmm.
Some tools are better for certain things than others. So maybe I am of the thought that I have an idea of what I want to do, and I'm going to find the right tools for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a little indiscriminate when it comes to systems. There are a lot of varying systems that I really like.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I definitely like the XCOM game on Jason's channel. We went through together and like looked at a bunch of different systems to see what would support running the kind of game I wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe I should have looked a little harder. It worked out great though. It was a fun campaign, whatever. It just like there were some things about it that could have gone better. Mostly on that like system side. But on a lot of times too, like I'll want to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, this looks so cool. And then you create a story that works within that framework. And I believe pretty strongly that a lot of games out there, or all TTRPGs really, have a story or a type of story they want you to be telling.
Yeah.
And
That's
themes
true.
they want you to address. And how well their rules support that, or how well, like, it's integrated into the system
Mm-hmm.
is of great interest to me. Like, I love analyzing that kind of stuff, but also I am that person who, like, goes through and, like, does the English essay kind of thing about all the books I read. So, like, your mileage may vary there.
Is there a situation where you thought you had the right system for the story you wanted to tell, but it did not work and it was a catastrophe?
Ooh.
I think that's happened mostly when I was still playing D&D. And I am not going to badmouth D&D as much because I was told that I should stop doing that. And
D&D is fine.
Which I agree with. Like, I did want to kind of, like, I acknowledged with someone in the Discord, like, yeah, no, you're right. I make comments about it a lot, and since I'm the person who's on more shows than anybody, it ends up adding up. But I think often enough, I used to really love the Pinnacles.
Oh, Wild Talents?
Wild Talents, everything. Thank you so much. I used to use Wild Talents a lot because it was very kind of, it had a definite flavor to how combats went, but it was very agnostic on like what time period and stuff like that. It was like, if you're using superpowers, you could pretty much move it into any sort of story. And I used to go at it that way, where I'd pick a more generic system that I could then wrap a story around that I wanted to. And I feel like as I've gotten more and more into different, like what systems can do, like what you were saying, Pooja, a second ago, how they're designed, what they're meant to tell, I think I've gone more the other way, where I jump into a system first, like, oh, I pick up a system because I want to tell the story that it's designed to tell. And I used to find, like, I used to decide how I wanted my car to look, and then I'd find the parts to make it. And now I'm like, oh, no, I know what I want my car to do. And so now I find the car that does the thing I want it to do, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Very much in that kind of vein of it. And most of the time it's because I want to try something. And like more and more with so many different indie systems out there that are like loudly declaring, like, this is what this game is set to do. Like the one we've tried on Monday, the Steal My Heart. It's like, this is about a very specific romance story between a detective and an art thief. And you are the detective and the art thief, and this is your story. So I love there's some sort of very granular art in that's very specific, and the whole game is designed around telling that story. And I find myself much more drawn to systems that do that now than even a few years ago, when I was much more drawn to generic systems. Like I really love the Genesis systems, the core rules, and like their weird dice and stuff that they used for Fantasy Flight Star Wars and the L5R. I really liked that system, but I don't know, I kind of like when they made it the actual Genesis system, I was like, okay, I liked when the dice were for that specific thing, you know, this is the Star Wars dice, this is this dice.
Yeah.
So I've started going more and more granular and specific with the things I like.
Well, there are some games that profess to do a particular thing, but then the system doesn't do that thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm going to point at older Vampire, because in the 90s, when we were chucking dice, we were playing superheroes and not brooding vampires.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think the 5th edition Vampire did was kind of course correct that. But it still felt too much about the powers, not enough about the relationships. And so I think that some of the older systems might not even deliver on their promise.
I mean, I have to disagree slightly because, like, I want to come in defense of specifically like Traveler. Like, I really like Traveler.
I love Traveler.
I know, but like,
That's so much fun.
I know.
That was like, I mean, as like memeable as Traveler's characterization is, and it is plenty memeable.
yeah,
One of the things I
So
was
funny.
literally just talking to a friend of mine about this a couple of days ago, maybe last week, whatever, time is a lie, that Traveler's character creation, Traveler's system of going through that tells you a lot about what that game is going to be like, what your role in the world is, in a way that I feel like there's no other system I've ever encountered that does anything nearly like it. You are a person in this system.
Yep.
You are a human being who has gone through some stuff, and also, like an older Traveler, you are one of you luckily made it. You made it through.
yeah,
You could have died and you didn't. But like, it tells you about, like, you are a speck in this universe.
yes,
It is not about setting you up to be a hero. It is about setting you up to be a group of people from very disparate backgrounds, or maybe very similar ones. You never know. The dice decide. That, like, you have these relationships and you are put together on the ship and you are going. And I love that about it.
Yeah.
And I love, like, the storytelling things that can come out of it. But
So
at the
true.
same time,
So
it's
true.
not the best system. Like, if that's not the kind of story you want to tell, don't play Traveler. You don't want to play Traveler.
yeah. You don't want to try and like you can tell great like if you want to do like Han Solo, like you can do a great Han Solo and like scum and villainy type story in Traveler. I think you could do that really well. You can't. Don't be a Jedi. Don't try to tell a Jedi story in Traveler.
There are no Jedi in Traveler.
No. Traveler is all about how you are a speck that is not powerful in the great, infinite universe. And even like the character creation like tells that. And so many people talk about how Traveler is a very generic space system. You're like, no, Traveler is very clear from the moment you can, well, from the older versions, die in character creation. Like, you are a frail dust in the wind person. Like,
And,
good luck
like,
out there.
And you might still fail at things you've been trying to do for a really long time, because you're also kind of like, for the most part, Traveler is built to be a system where, like, you are clocking in for that 9 to 5.
Yep.
You are clocking in for that 9 to 5.
Yeah, there
And
are
then-
spreadsheets.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you have to tell a story that is boring or that is about, like, you don't have to tell The Office, but it does mean that, like, I feel like thematically Traveler is a lot closer in alignment to Call of Cthulhu than it is any other, like, of the other, like, broad categories of game system.
Yeah.
Because Call of Cthulhu is also about telling a story about a bunch of individual,
People.
like, human people, not extraordinary, dealing with extraordinary circumstances. Now, obviously, Call of Cthulhu, the endgame varies. No one makes it out unscarred.
Yeah.
And Traveler, not so much. It doesn't have to be that way. But it could easily be that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And I think like D&D is kind of designed for what D&D is designed to do. It does it very well. And I think where people find fault with D&D is when they try and stretch it to do other things. And now there's people who have gone in and written books to like make that easier, and I think some of them are much more successful than people who, like, back in the olden days tried to just homebrew. But if you want to tell a story about, you know, a group of people in a fantasy world going and battling against the powers of darkness, like, D&D is built to do that thing.
It does it in a lens too. That's where that really the rogue fantasy, as I would call it, where you are, scrappy kind of
Yes.
adventurers. Whereas I don't know that the D&D does high fantasy very well, even though it kind of tries to. Where a lot of power and a lot of consequences with that power and that kind of thing.
I do feel like D&D does not do, and it doesn't say it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like D&D is the power fantasy that doesn't come with consequences.
Right.
Like, and that is what it is on the tin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it delivers on that promise in most cases. When you
True.
get to high levels in D&D, it is not with great power comes great responsibility. It is with great power comes great power.
Yeah. Right.
And that's great because that's what you've signed up for.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. I think where people run into trouble is when they try and take a system like you use GURPS in the email, Ed, and like GURPS is crunchy. If you want to tell a story game, GURPS should not be your go-to. Like if you wanted to tell a granular level story where you know exactly how many bullets are in your gun or exactly how much damage that does, like GURPS is your friend. If you want a really gritty, realistic, as realistic as possible, like almost like trying to get that replication of real life, that's what GURPS is designed to do. And you need all of the books so you know exactly all the equipment and all those things. But if you're looking for, I want a light storytelling game, and that's why it struggles, I think, and I agree that it does struggle with fantasy, because it's not made for fantasy. Fantasy's made up shit. Like, GURPS does guns really well. GURPS does stuff like that where you have a measurement of, I know exactly how much damage this giant knife does.
It's quantifiable.
Exactly. And magic is sort of weird when you try and quantify it in a way like most of the rest of GURPS is quantified. Because it's like, we think a bullet does the same as a magic ball fire thing. Not magic missile, because that's a different system. But you know what I mean? It's like, okay. And so it's someone's very subjective opinion of, I think magic in my imagination does this amount of damage. And you're like, well, I don't know.
And that's the thing for like a more like generic fantasy game. Everybody's coming into it with and every table comes into it and it builds out these specifics in the world themselves. And so if you're looking for something that, like, if you're looking at something that has already quantified all that stuff for you, it often won't particularly relate to what you're thinking in your mind.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, it's a magic gun as opposed to a gun, but they do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then it's just boring.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you have a magic gun when you could just have a gun?
Yeah.
And then in 1992, the unbridled chaos of rifts. If you want unbridled chaos and things that make absolutely no sense and dissonance,
Yeah, but
that's the one.
the
That's
thing
it.
with Rifts, though, is like, it was meant to be its own sandbox. Like,
just
Rifts,
chaos.
Rifts is just chaos, and it's meant to play its own world, and they never were like, hey, you can play, like, any high fantasy. Like, it was not made to take the Rift system and do Lord of the Rings. Like,
No, it's blew up Chi-Town.
yeah, you played Rifts, and you played in the Rifts wild universe, and maybe you're a dwarf, maybe you're a teenage dragon with some angst in a journal. Who knows? Like, there was a lot of things that could happen in Rifts.
So much hilarity. It was a
Right.
good time.
But I think that's a great example of, we want this wild story that's got cyberpunk and magic and weird alt history and all these things in it together. And so it's like, oh, Rifts is exactly what we want.
Yes.
So that is a great example
We
of...
want no rules.
Yeah. We want a lot of rules to play in a world that seems like it has no rules. Is
Right.
really what Rifts
Yeah.
is. But
It's
I
like
feel...
all the work that do you know how much work it takes to make this look effortless?
Yeah, exactly. So much. And I think that that's a great example of, this is the flavor we want, so we're taking the system that does this thing. It's like people who want to do like Shadowrun. That is a very specific flavor. Like there's the PBTA Shadowrunners, which is like the knockoff. Like if you wanted to play in that world but with less rules and stuff. I haven't played it. I have it, but I haven't played it yet. But so there's like people who have tried to replicate that with different rule sets, but it's like, okay, like this is what Shadowrun was made to do. You want to be an elf stealing from a capitalist organization along with an orc and cyber person. Like there's lots of different things you can do.
Like
Lots
if you
and lots
wanna-
and lots of dice.
Yeah.
So many times. Yeah.
Like if you want to play like the child of Blade Runner and Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Shadowrun is there for you, babe.
With spreadsheets.
There's spreadsheets, yeah.
It's with spreadsheets and like so many dice.
Yeah.
But I understand how it can be, like, obviously we are in a situation, like, the people who are coming on this podcast to talk about stuff, like, where we're exposed to and expose ourselves to as many systems as we get our hands on because that's what we want to do. So I can see why people wouldn't want to.
Yes.
Like, it gets cumbersome as a person, like, as if you are the forever GM of your group, you're having to learn a new system all the time.
Oh, and system mastery is so important.
And yeah, for a lot of these games, like, if you're not really good at it, like I would say all of the Forged in the Dark, like, you really need to know at least the base system super, super well to, like, run it well.
It needs to be hardwired, I found. I mean, it's maybe that's my own learning style, but if it's not hardwired, I stumble and stuff. That's why I end up using my system, not because I think it's better, it's because it's hardwired.
But that's the thing, is, like, so the ability to take a system that was created with certain themes and worlds in mind and adapt it to the story that you want to tell is, like, it's a different skill set, but I think it's an incredibly valuable one for people who are in, like, the situation that I think most people are in which this is not their only hobby, and that they have lives.
What?
I mean, other people, like, we all have lives, but, like, you know what I mean?
Only because we have to.
Basically. But, like, who aren't spending so much of their free time committing both time and money, because just, like, getting that many systems isn't cheap, to learning new systems constantly for their home games. Like, I feel like there's a lot to be said for being able to, like, find a system that you can mold into a bunch of different stories that you want to tell.
Yeah.
I will come out and say, like, for all that I'm having a lot of fun with D&D, D&D is not that system. Do a different one. D&D is incredibly difficult to mold into other things. D&D does what it does well. Possibly. Like, I have quibbles, whatever. Everybody has talked to death about it. But D&D is very locked into, on almost every level, the story that it wants to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Other systems aren't. It is much easier with pretty much any Powered by the Apocalypse system to reskin it to tell the kind of story that you want to tell. And that's just an example. I said Traveler, like, don't pick Traveler if that's not the kind of story that you want to tell. You can, however, pick up, as Kenny said earlier, Wild Talents and, like, any kind of superhero type story. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be specifically superheroes, but any story that could work with powers will work in Wild Talents. So if you have, like, maybe, say, like, if you really want to tell a wide breadth of stories with your home game and you're running, say, like, 6-month campaigns, like, pick 3 systems that cover a broader category and learn those really well, and then you can mold them. And then also what'll be nice about that is your table will also know them, so you're not always starting at 0 with people, which can get really frustrating, once again, in a home game.
Yeah.
Like, it's, honestly, it can get frustrating on AP.
I mean, it takes at least 3 sessions to get into a flow of any game. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know the system.
Yeah. I feel like what's great is there's a lot of options now, and even D&D to some extent has this, where, like, if you wanted to play like regular D&D, great. If you want to play it a little bit different, there's, like, an Eberron setting you can do D&D with. So you can get different flavors of that thing that D&D does so great, like Spelljammer. If you want to do space stuff, you can do Spelljammer now. So there are other varieties of that, and that's really great because there are like families of systems that are doing that too. You mentioned PBTA as an example, Belonging Outside Belonging, where once you learn those base mechanics, there's a lot of people out there using those base mechanics to make specialty games. So if you wanted to do a Belonging Outside Belonging game about like kids struggling with getting powers and stuff, Extraordinary by Cody, who's on Tuesday nights, stuff like that. So it's like same thing with Powered by the Apocalypse. If you want to do a space Powered by the Apocalypse, if you want to do the superhero Powered by the Apocalypse, and they're all by different people and stuff. So your mileage may vary. Some of them are great, some of them are not great. But
and
the
you
core
don't
mechanic's
have
the
to
same.
buy them all,
Yeah.
right? Because like if you have one of the PBTA games, it is for the most part relatively easy to reskin it for your own purposes. Like if you're not trying to do like in comparison, everything is relative.
Yes.
But like a Powered by the Apocalypse system can be molded to do different things a lot more easily than other systems can. Like I'm thinking once again, like we were on Jason's channel, we ran a Star Wars game using demigods and just reflavored the playbooks. And it worked great.
Yeah.
Like-
well, also he sort of, like, I would say that was a very specific example because Jedi and stuff are sort of magical powered kind of demigods anyway. So that was one of the things that there's already that parallel in place with the system.
Well,
Yeah,
also,
some
like, we weren't all
PBTA
playing,
is
like,
easier.
we
Yeah.
weren't all playing Jedi.
Mhm.
It was, like, we had Jedi, but, like, I was playing a Mandalorian, like, other people, like, we had a variety of, right? So it wasn't, yes, like, that is a specific use case, but I would say, like, when you're looking at a Powered by the Apocalypse, and you can, like, look at the Masks playbooks, and apply those archetypes to other stories that you want to tell.
Mhm.
And you can use that system to like, because it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to like cover every use case when you're making it for yourself or your own story.
Maybe.
Eric,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Eric from New Jersey in the chat is saying, I can't even do 3 systems anymore, which is why I pivoted towards generic.
That's why I use
systems.
my system because of that. You know, it's like I'm 47 years old. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But
That would be my one concern with I don't think most people out there want to do design work. And that does, if you're going to do, like, the cool thing about PBTA and Belonging Outside Belonging or Forged in the Dark or things like that is they have a base mechanic that then you can find hacks to work on top of. So you kind of, it's like once you know how to wrench on a car, you can kind of work on, you know, with Toyota, you can work on a Ford, you can work on a whatever. That's probably not true because Toyotas and Fords are very different. But anyway, you get the idea. Most people thought that was fine. But so you've got that base understanding that hopefully doesn't require relearning a bunch of stuff. But it's really hard on the fly to make stuff up, which for me, when I, like, you ask, like, how do we pick? What do we pick first? Generally what I do is I decide what type of game I want to run. Like, do I want to run a space game? Do I want to run a fantasy game? Or even something more specific than that. Do I want to run a Lord of the Rings game? And then from there, I look at what's available. Yeah, exactly.
what about Subarus?
So it's, I pick like the category of what I would like to run, see what's available there, and then from there kind of sift down and like, okay, I would be interested in learning this. Oh, I already know the base part of this system, so that'll be really easy. I either do that if it's a story I want to tell, or the other flavor is, hey, Free League just came out with an Aliens game. I want to try that.
Yeah, right,
and that's
right.
the other. But that one's, I feel like that's a little more like specific case than like when I'm planning a campaign.
Reskinning games, especially PBTA, is pretty difficult to do on the fly. I think there are some PBTA that's really not easier than others. But if it's reskinning a system to make it work for something that you want to do, at least for me, I'd rather find the thing that works for what I want to do than have to do any engineering. And what ends up happening, if you're somebody like me, is you go, oh, I'm going to make my own fucking game, you know, and then you throw your lot in with the, you know, with the divide. Why are we designing games?
Why are we designing games?
But anyway, I do think that now I'm looking at the question again. If I had to answer, maybe it is easier for me to find games that are doing what I want to do.
So rules that support the story you
Yeah.
want to tell.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like that's probably overall like I feel like I pick my story and then find rules that match with it.
Yeah.
Because if the rules don't match with it, then at that point, why am I running a game? Why am I not just doing an improv scene with my friends? Like, why aren't we just doing theater together and like LARPing or whatever?
Why aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, because we like dice.
Oh. Sure.
And I like sitting while I do my playing. I don't
I feel
want
like the biggest barrier to learn, I mean, besides like constantly interacting with a bunch of people I don't know in my personal life. Look, I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I just but is that so many LARPs happen like out in the woods, like, or just like in fields,
Very safe locations
like
with people
Where I'm
you
like-
don't know
yeah,
at
exactly.
night.
Yeah, just air conditioning.
Air conditioning.
These are all valid points. I get it now. Yeah.
You can tell that I'm much more likely to be a camper than a regular camper.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Like having the few times I have gone camping as an adult, like we've always picked sites that have like standing bathrooms.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
the lowest bar.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And drinks.
And
Yes.
drinks, yeah. And you know what? I think I've said it before. Like years of Ren Fair ruined me
Oh,
for
yes.
LARPing.
I can imagine.
It's like no, that's the thing I get paid to do is go and dress in weird clothes and be in the sun all day and talk to people and sing. Someday I'll probably miss it enough to do it, but probably it has to be before my kid's old enough that I have to pay a babysitter at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It gets expensive.
That's so expensive. LARPing has, Eric from New Jersey again, LARPing has plenty of rules. Trust me, it's not just improv.
We know. Yes.
It does help to like camping, though,
Yeah.
which...
It can happen in air conditioning
Yeah.
areas. It can.
That's true. But the interesting thing about
Does
LARPing,
it, though?
the LARPing thing, usually like you're joining a group that does it already, so there's much less you choosing the system involved, unless you're the coordinator of the LARP, and that's a whole nother can of worms. Like that's not this email.
So, mailbag number 2. Dear Kimmy and whatever other wonderful people are there tonight.
Chris, I'm a wonderful person.
You are. Hi, it's Eric from New Jersey.
Joycey, what exit?
What this timing? I love it. One of the original X from Y people. Well, at least since Tabby was arguing that fate was crunchy before he left for the first time.
Fate is not
Wow.
happy.
Wow. Anyway, I just wanted to share my origin story and ask a question. It's all rather boring, though. Lies. I'm sure that is lies. As a kid in the single digits, I was a fan of Arthurian tales and Greek myth, having a copy of Delaire's? Delaire? Because the S was
That's
silent.
right. Yeah.
But the other S, is the other S silent? Book of Greek myths that I read cover to cover multiple times, even at a young age. At my cousin's house, I discovered a monster manual. And when I saw the Medusa, I was quite interested in this game my older cousins played.
I wonder at what edition.
Well, my mother would not let me get the game because in our local Kmart, the Mincer Basic Dungeons and Dragons box clearly said ages 10 and up. So on my 10th birthday, I wanted only one gift, and we went to the Kmart and got the basic box set. Aside from the fact that no one wanted to GM, which started my path as the forever GM, that's pretty much the whole story. Boring, isn't it?
Nope.
No.
No.
I would also like to just say,
Nostalgic.
yeah, nostalgic. Like 90% of the time, the ages on the box have more to do with like laws and testing and stuff than it does.
Customs.
Yeah, exactly. Because like technically, the box for Decima says ages 14 plus. Totally fine. Like, but if I had put anything less than that, I was going to have to pay for like mountains of safety testing for child-friendly stuff in Europe, even though cards are not a chokeable item, especially big tarot cards.
I think every kid could make everything a chokeable item.
True, this is their special power. But like, there's just like they were like, well, you can pay us like 10 more grand and put a 10 plus on it. I'm like, no, thank you. 14 plus. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah.
Can we go around and say what our first time was? And not in D&D or tabletop role playing games. Context. Do you remember the first product?
Okay, so there were a couple of things that don't ask me how, but I had a friend of mine because I don't remember. A friend of mine had the Vampire 2, maybe? I don't know. It was the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Had a vampire hardcover, and I spent a lot of time by myself making characters and like putting together my own like little
Vampire was
vampire
your
stories.
first.
Well, no, because I
Ooh.
never got in a group. Like I never actually played it.
Well, your first product. Then
But
you had
that
to
was
play
my
it.
first product
Okay.
in high school, like maybe sophomore or junior year, maybe freshman year, but like vampire. And then the first actual TTRPG that I played was D&D 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
And as longtime listeners of the podcast know, I played a ranger because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yes.
What was your first?
My first like product was a book that was AD&D, and it was a lore book about the Seven Sisters,
Oh, cool.
which I don't remember how old I was. I was pretty young, and I didn't really know it was a D&D book. I thought it was like a book of stories of these 7 magical, amazing women that had these chunks of text that I would just skip that had a bunch of numbers in them. And that seemed weird, and obviously I didn't care about them, so I'd go back and skip until it had another story again. And I
That's
just
so cool.
was obsessed. I still have it, and it was just I was just fascinated by the story of these seven sisters, and like one was like the most powerful mage in a city, and one was like a drow elf, and one was like, and I just thought it was a really cool book of stories and lore that I just hadn't seen before.
It's so funny. Mine was out of water too. It was a second edition. It was just an expansion of spells. It was a book of magic, and I think it was called the Book of Magic. I don't remember what it's called. I remember the cover very clearly, and I had that for a long time before I knew what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And then I finally got into it, and I was like, oh, but
That's
I was just
interesting.
content to read the spells.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I was super content too. I didn't actually realize that you could run a campaign of vampire so much. Like, I didn't understand the concept of tabletop role-playing games at the time.
Yeah.
And, like, the amount of lore, it's always the lore. The
Yeah.
lore, like, sucks you in.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
the lore in this vampire book, I must have read it 6 or 7 times. Like, and I was, like, trying to figure out how I could do my stats to make exactly the kind of character I wanted. Like, the very broody, emo, like, goth child that I was.
Yeah. I feel like that was half the reason that my first try at D&D, it was also junior high, so like we didn't know anything about it and we weren't good at it, and it kind of fell apart. But like I came, like they're like, oh, we can make characters, and I was like thinking I could make one of the Seven Sisters as my character, because
Yeah.
that made sense, right? Because
Yeah.
I'd like read this thing. And then they're like, oh no, you can't do that. And I just remember feeling like so dejected. I was like, well, I don't know if I want to play anymore. I just have to be a random person, like like just not understanding the concept at all. Yeah, so I don't know. And it is ironic that that is now like the biggest hole in all of my like knowledge of the nerdiverse is like the D&D lore is like my, even though that's what I like got started on, is like this.
Well, you
giant
read the
book.
best one and didn't have to read it.
I know. I like. Yeah. Oh man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. Ed from Min Orida had asked in a recent episode, why do we game? Kimmy and Riley gave interesting answers, harkening back to the tradition of telling the story around a fire. My question would like to draw that into a little narrower focus. Why do we GM?
And control issues.
Yeah. Dang it. That was gonna be my answer.
Narcissism, what?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
For me, for Eric from New Jersey, it's when the player's eyes light up like they just unwrapped a favorite gift. Be it from something I created 5 seconds before or 5 months before. There's just something about that phrasing that is reminding me of some kind of like romance movie that I watched a few years ago, and I can't place it, but I needed to share.
Yeah.
Bringing that joy in a cooperative environment, watching eyes go wide in either joy or horror with realization, just does it for me. As an example, in our prior Savage Worlds homebrew fantasy game, the players led a force in retaking a city that was occupied by demons. One of the beings they enlisted to help was a dragon named Hazathan, who said he would help them when the time came. I had no problem with Hazathan eventually showing up because he was at a power level where he wouldn't be a Deus Ex Machina or anything like that. The risk of him getting killed was pretty level with the players. Now, my buddy Jeremy would come from time to time and join the group. He wasn't a regular. And he always played a goblin ally. This group loved goblins and hated dwarves. Long story. Due to them moving around a lot, Jeremy never played the same goblin twice. Well, they started fighting demons, and all hell was breaking loose. Pardon the pun. Jeremy played his goblin with a touch of chaos, screaming things like, "This is not even my final form!" Well, when multiple Baelors were on the table, Jeremy, for one of his actions, said, "I transform," removed the goblin mini, and replaced it with a dragon mini. Jeremy then bellowed, "I am Hazathan!" The entire table erupted in glee as the players' eyes popped out of their heads. Hazathan wasn't even as effective as, say, the orcish holy warrior or the psychotic island elf in the party. Having a fire-breathing dragon fighting against demons that are immune to fire makes the demons laugh a bit.
Fair.
But his dramatic appearance fired up the players. Burp. It's a core memory for them. There were many more that just surprised us, too, but this is something where I loved seeing the joy in their faces. Granted, there are times the game surprises me, and that's a great part of the fun if we're doing it, but it's great to see them unwrap things. As always, stay gaming, stay tipsy, stay diverse. Mugs held high, Eric from New Jersey.
What exit?
Woo! I'm now drinking Kirkland Signature Water.
Oh, yeah.
For health, it's a 9. For taste, it's a solid 4. Sorry.
Pretty good.
Thanks, yeah. Not bad for water.
I mean, plain water.
See, why do I read GM? For me, it's all about theater. I really love... There's this moment when you're at a table and it's in the flow and it's working and you're not thinking about the rules. And there's this shared consciousness. And you're reading each other's minds. You're seeing visually what's going on and everybody's seeing the same thing. And that magic is, it's like if you're at the helm, it really helps the ego, first of all. But secondly, it's just, it's like sitting and watching the orchestra play. Mm-hmm. And it's just magic when you get in that flow. Now, when you're grinding, it's not so magical.
Yeah, for me, I'm always a nervous wreck when I start a campaign. Like, I'm always really nervous about it. I'm always like, oh, I hope I can do this. And I always feel like that self-doubt, the imposter syndrome always kicks in. But I love when you hit, like, session 3 or 4 of a campaign. And for me, it feels like braiding. It's very, like, I love when I see something here that I can pull and, like, braid into like something I can pull from this part of the story, and something someone said a little while ago, I can like weave it in here, and it just gets so exciting to me as the players make a mess to like pull different pieces of their mess together into like an interesting story and things that will pay off later down the road. It's this great, I think it's the same feeling I get when I'm like figuring out how to make a cosplay out of like foam mats. Like, this is how I make armor from exercise mats. No problem. Like, it's that same, excuse me, like challenge of building something from pieces that are sitting around.
Or use like a tactile construction artistry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really
I
cool.
love
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
I mean, my probably solid answer is because a lot of people tell me I need to.
You're a people pleaser? No.
I mean, have you met me?
Yeah.
Also, like, I mean, maybe come as a surprise to some people just because I'm also abrasive and rude. But no, it's fun. It's like, I love being able to tell a story with a group of people, and when you're GMing, you can tell a very specific story that no one else is going to be able to tell. Like, you are making this world for people, and you are, like, facilitating this story. And, like, all the things that you've put together in it, all the stuff that you give them to tell the story, like, crafts it into something very unique.
There's few purer ways to tell your story, really, and when I found the collaboration story is even better, because whatever you come up with, the table's going to make even better.
Exactly. It's like there's like this little, like, since Kimmy used the crafting metaphor, let's use the cooking metaphor. Is that when you're cooking with a group, like, it's like the potluck of your dreams.
Yeah.
It's the, like, more of the backyard barbecue or like, in my childhood, like, you know, the seasonal crawfish boil or tailgating.
Yeah.
Like, you get so much more than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love, like, I love being able to throw curveballs at people, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really fun when you, like, twist the knife just a little.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the idea of like the potluck too, because it's like getting to write a story, but with people who are smarter than me giving better ideas that I can just take.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, if I only used my ideas, my campaigns would be less than half as interesting. But suddenly, you know, Dave comes up with this weird character concept, and then Kai or Jason, like, starts a weird romance, and then like, you know, everyone brings their little thing, and it's always better than what I would have just come up with just, like, by myself. And so it's so great to get all those, like, different flavors in there too. Like, you've got the weird Samantha flavor, you've got, like, all these other things, and it's just, I don't know, it's just
Sam.
it's beautiful.
Just Sam.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, and it's just great, like, bringing all those things to the table and, creating something together.
Yeah, so much fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it is interesting. Also, like, because I've been kind of modeling and crafting through, like, a couple of different campaigns that I want to run this year.
Mm-hmm.
In the second half of the year. that it's like, part of it too is that sense of, like, oh man, I can't wait to see how people destroy this.
Yeah.
Because nothing survives contact with the players.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, like, I've definitely got some things where I'm just like, you know, it'd be fun. It's like, set up all of these dominoes for people to, like, not knock down in the order that they were arranged, but to, like, be the Tasmanian devil running around and, like, swirling it all together.
Which are, like, I went with Laurelyn to the San Diego Zoo. Tasmanian devils are really cute. I was not expecting them to be so cute as Looney Tunes did not prepare me for the level of, like,
campaign.
how much I want to cuddle them, because they're very cute and they've got little tails and they're just like, yeah, they're very cute. I'm sure they're meaner up close, but, like, from where we were standing,
They were very friend-shaped.
very cute. Yeah, they were friend, like, almost puppy shaped. Like, they were very cute.
Oh.
Yeah, they were cute.
I gotta see a picture.
Yeah. All right. Mailbag 3 from the archive 2019. Hola, Happy Jackers! I've been playing with my friends in my friend's Starfinder game, where I and 4 other players have been entered into a Star Academy type school, and we have to try and prove ourselves to be the best in the class. One issue my GM is running into is that the age-old problem of long, monotonous combats. She's trying to keep it engaging by asking for more narrative moves rather than I roll, I hit. Most of us are still new to the Starfinder system and are figuring out our character's abilities, so it should speed up in time. But as with all D20 systems, combats have a tendency to drag on. It's not just D20 systems, friend. All right. One fix I recommend is to decrease hit points and increase AC. I feel this would help make combats challenging and encourage teamwork. You can't damage the space pirate ship until someone disables the energy shield. What are some fixes you can recommend to speed up combats as well as keep players engaged in the turn-to-turn moments? I also tried recommending other systems like PBTA for the more narrative-focused system, but she's been planning this campaign for 2 years and seems pretty set on running it in Starfinder. Any suggestions you might have for her would be greatly appreciated. Thank you again from Zombie Heart.
think monotony comes from turn currency or player currency.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that you can do in a complex game like Pathfinder or Starfinder is allow bonus actions and other actions and multiple actions to happen at different points in the turn order. It's a little hard to set up, but once you set it up, that means that you're going to do more as a player more frequently.
That is something that we're doing in Astral Circus. As long as like our initiatives are back to back, we can interchange kind of moves.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And
Have a player initiative.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
really, really helped in terms of like cooperative combat, where like one person can set something up with their bonus action, the other person can capitalize on that with their action, and then it's a follow up with another action. Like, and that gets a little complicated, and it doesn't always have to be that specific, but it's been a really
That's a good idea.
engaging.
That's
It's
a good
really,
idea. Yeah.
really engaging way to do it.
Yeah.
And
Because you can group all the baddies, and you can even do baddies, players, and then environment, and have like 3 turns.
yeah, and that's like that is one way to do it. We're actually doing it with initiative rolls, and it's just however it lands. So like, say, like if Sam and my characters have like back-to-back initiative, we could swap out a little bit, or if like, Jay and Dion's characters, like, and they've done that, and we've done that in all of those permutations, just based on how the dice roll, which also keeps it interesting because you are coming up with different things that will work with a different person rather than the same person each time.
Yeah, you kind of get team mechanics that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
it's been
awesome.
really fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, and I like this both because I do like an established turn order.
Mhm.
I like an initiative system.
Mhm.
Weird, but true. But like, I find like a lot of times when I'm playing PBTA or another game system that doesn't have like actual initiative, it can get weird about people taking their turns and
Yeah.
like how spotlight moves and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
hard.
just is like, maybe some person is like, maybe I'm too eager, like, so I'm doing too much, and you don't quite realize it if you aren't able to like put it in perspective, or maybe somebody else is, or maybe somebody just hasn't figured out what they want to do, or they're not like quick enough to like jump in and do it, and then next thing you know, everything's over and they haven't gotten a chance to do anything.
Yeah, it requires a lot of GM oversight and
Yeah.
GM really being aware of how active everyone's being in the moment.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then the other thing that I would suggest is varying your types of monsters. If you put, say, like, a big bad and some mooks, or, like, use swarms, or use other kinds of type, like, groupings, and you can vary them up even within the combat, so people aren't able to just, like, okay, I swing and hit. Better. It's like, because that's not going to work on all these different types of monsters, it forces people to think differently and really like use their different moves. That isn't going to make your combat take any less time, but at least it will be more interesting for the time that you do take.
Yeah. I was playing a game at a con, the most recent con, and I didn't know if I like it or not, but I'm going to bring it up because it might help some groups. We're playing a more crunchy system, and before every, like, there was an initiative order and everything, and before every round, the GM stopped everything and was like, okay, we're going to take 2 minutes, you decide what you're doing. And everybody was like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then like, okay, let's go. So it wasn't like, it was basically like that forced think time. Like, I appreciate it as a teacher. I was like, I recognize what you're doing. Like, okay, this is our thinking time. So when you call on us, it is expected we know what we're doing already. And I felt, I don't know if it took any less time than if we'd all just kind of thought for a second before we took our turn, but it made it feel like it was flowing more quickly. I think it probably
Right.
evened out, but it felt more active too. And people would like talk a little bit about it, and like they were like encouraging, like, oh, okay, like you can plan stuff or whatever. And then they would go through it. And it was clearly like their homebrew like process of doing it. But I thought it was very engaging. Like everyone sat for and was really thinking hard and talking a little bit for a minute, and then we went through boom, boom, and we all did our turns, and then okay, new round, take 2 minutes. They even had like a little timer thingy. So I don't know if that actually made it quicker, but it definitely made it more engaging.
Well, the metric that person was messing with is latency.
Yes.
You know, it's okay to time is the same, but the fluid it's more fluid.
Yeah.
And there's less latency.
Yeah, and we all felt like we were all thinking about it the whole time, and it didn't make it so like nobody went off and got on their phone because we were all thinking about it the whole time, and then it went fast enough. It sped up how quickly each person's turn went, even though the overall time probably was the same. So
Which
it was
means that you're spending more time engaged as
Yes,
a player.
exactly.
I can see that.
And the latency comes in also when you're trying to figure out in a game like this, you're trying to figure out your modifier, and you're trying to figure out what your spell does and what your action does. And having that pre-programmed in a way, it could be helpful.
Yeah.
There might be another way to do it. I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, people were
but-
talking about like asking questions about that, like in
Yeah.
that time too.
Yeah.
So I think it saved that debate, and like people were just felt. I think it might have been I don't know if the person meant it as such, but it was very helpful for people who weren't really familiar with the system to ask questions and stuff right then.
Yeah.
Too, it was like the permission to ask questions of other people or the GM or whatever without feeling like you were sucking up time. Because no matter what, we got those 2 minutes. And it also was kind of helpful because, like, if we used a minute and a half, you had that 30 other seconds to be like, oh, okay, I'm excited. This is fun. And, like, have that camaraderie moment.
That's
Or, like,
interesting.
I don't know. So,
Yeah. And you don't have to keep the full 2 minutes. If it's not working out for the table, you can just be like, okay, everybody's done and we're moving on.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, saved that amount of time. I love the idea that you use that, especially for, like, in Zombie Heart's case, where they're new to Starfinder.
mm-hmm.
So it is like, okay, and now we're going to talk up front. And if people are like, man, I really want to use this, but also I don't know how it works, that's the perfect time to ask that. And then it gives you more opportunities to use skills that you might not when it's your turn and you feel the pressure of like, oh shit, everybody's waiting for me to go because like
Exactly.
we've been in this for such a long time.
I mean, it's not conventional, but it's kind of elegant. I'd be interested to know what that was like at a table. I mean,
Yeah, I liked it, but and I don't know, like I didn't know the other people there, so like it wasn't like I could like go interview them afterwards. How did you feel about this interesting thing? But it was something that I kind of like I was like, oh, how you play a game and you're like, I'm saving this for my GMing toolkit. I'm
Right.
taking this and putting it in my pocket. Like it was the
Yeah.
thing I put in my pocket.
This goes in my bucket.
Yes, this is mine now. Thank you.
One thing I do, I guess I have to do this in PBTA more often than not. One thing that I find that helps with latency is recapping. Where you'll be like, okay, so you have them on the ground, you're jumping from the cliff, you're on that chandelier. What are you doing with that skateboard?
Yeah.
And then, you kind of close the gaps that way, and that allows people to reset and rethink. But that's a PBTA rule. I've never
Well,
really done that
especially
in
like
a chat game.
Theater of the mind situation.
Any theater of the
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that with Vampire. I've done that with lots of things. Anything with theater of the mind. And again, that's that teaching strategy of giving them that thinking moment.
Yeah.
Like you're filling the silence for them so they have a moment to kind of recalibrate and decide what they're going to do without everyone's focus being on them. And it's like, I mean, you do that as a teacher. I do this too. I'm like, okay, so we've talked about, I don't know, I've been teaching kindergarten, so it's a little different. It's like, okay, so WH makes the whoo sound. So let's see, we knew we did this word. We did this word. Who thinks that I'm going to pick someone in just a minute to sell me another WH word? And you're just like, you're giving them that time and they're all thinking now as furiously as they can about their WH words. What's another one I know? But you're still talking. So they feel like when you call on them, they know the answer immediately. Like, oh, I thought of that so fast. When really you've been talking for like 18 minutes about WH words. They've been thinking about it the whole time, but it makes them feel like, oh, I thought of that so fast. And so it's like I feel like we do that as GMs too, and we're like recapping the scene or okay, and then you're gonna go next, but this is happening now. So I don't know. It's like that building that again, like that GM toolkit of these are our strategies.
I think when challenging monotony, it's not about duration of combat, but about latency in between modes of combat. So if you're trying to solve this problem, focus on latency, not on... Because we all love the combat when we're in it, and if it's moving smoothly, it could go all night. That's fine.
Yeah.
But what happens is we get to access an ally's board game, and we're sitting there for 35 minutes and haven't done anything.
Yeah.
That's when things get monotonous.
Yeah, that's when things get because I've been in D&D combats that took like literally 6 hours, and there were parts of it that were so much fun, like literally hours of combat that were super fun. And it's that when that latency, you're absolutely right. That latency hits when people start like scrolling their phones, or it's doing the other things, and then it's like, oh, it's my turn. Where is everybody again? And then like everybody has to recap for every single person,
Right.
and not in that fun, engaging way like you just did, but like, okay, this is where Stork is. This is where this is the monster. Oh, this monster. Oh, I'm gonna shoot at him. Oh no, he's dead already. Okay. Like that is just the most frustrating place to be in the universe.
Yeah.
And I think that more than the actual mechanics of a long combat are definitely what kill it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I agree too. It's like the latency issue is big, because a lot of combats just take a really long time. Some of those pinnacle combats took forever.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
in
sure.
Wild Talents, it's not that combat is any faster
No.
than it is in D&D,
Mm-hmm.
but it is that we are going in a row and talking about what we're going to do and planning out all our moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all roll it once. And then, based on the dice order, then you, like, and this is a quibble I have, actually, about Wild Talents. Like, based on your dice roll is when you actually end up going, and, like, does your move work or not? Have you planned on something? And you can, just based on your dice rolls, have a player that doesn't get to do anything because they were just too slow, like, on their dice rolls, they didn't get enough matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you just end up with a situation where, like, okay, it's resolved. Okay, it's resolved. Oh, that's not valid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not a system that rewards thinking outside of the box in that way.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing anything that's situational,
Yeah.
there's a high likelihood that that situation will have changed too much by the time they get to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would bother me. Yeah.
But outside of that, I do find that the base of the system, where you're all going together and then you all roll together, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly engaged. There's no point where you're checked out, because there's no point where you're not engaging with what is happening on the table.
Yeah, and the system actually is based on that, because the people with the most like the sense go first, like
Yeah.
get to declare their action first, even if they're not the most physically
Least.
quick.
It is
Oh,
the
yeah,
people with the least sense go
Go first. That's right. You're correct. So because the idea is like you actually want to declare your action last, because then you know what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the people who have the least amount of information say what they're doing first, and then by the end you're like, okay, I know what everyone else is doing. I can make like the perfect move to complement everything they're doing.
Interesting. But we could, as tabletop players, RPG players, borrow and steal from what's going on in the board game world right now, because a lot of these more recent games share the action economy. And actually a lot of the action economy is based on circumstance, not on what your abilities or what you have. So in this case, these are the actions you can do. Anybody in that situation, okay, move, right? I guess it's just if you know you're tackling latency, there are games that do that really well.
Yeah.
And many of them are board games.
Yeah, board games are really
Yeah.
all about that, because when you break down what combat is, and like it's basically a bunch of mechanics, which are what board games are most of the time. They don't have the role-playing aspect of them a lot of times. So they also have to keep people engaged, just doing the same moving tokens over and like things like that. So that's a great inspiration point for sure. Cool.
Did we crush it?
We crushed
I think we
it.
crushed
Good
Nice.
job. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 35, episode 22 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Jay Dragon from Possum Creek Games. You can find more information about her at possumcreekgames.com. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. My name is Kimmy, she, her. You can find me at Golden Lasso Girl on mostly just Blue Sky now. That's the only one I like really chat with. But you can find my games at goldenlassogames.com or Golden Lasso Games on Blue Sky, or I post on Instagram for that.
And just a quick correction, that's possumcreekgames.itch.io.
Okay. They also are. They have PossumCreekGames.com is also a thing,
okay.
too, I believe. But
Sorry.
that's okay.
I was
You
looking at
can-
the list and I was like, oh god, it's not there.
No. PossumCreekGames.itch.io is where you can buy games too. Go there too. Both of them. Perfect.
And I'm Chris. Nothing really special to spotlight, except that I'm here and happy to be back. It's been a really crazy summer, so it's good to be with friends.
Yay!
I'm Pooja. You can find me on the internet as Forgotten Saves. If you want to see me play TTRPGs, you can find me here on Happy Jacks on Sundays, playing Spelljammer, Astral Circus, where I get to play a great thimbo. You can also find me on the back catalog. And if you want to see me make weird shit, check out my YouTube channel, Forgotten
I
Curiosities.
want to see that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. I should probably plug the show I'm on here too. On Tuesday nights, Kadave is jamming the Electric State. We're doing our Road to Nowhere campaign. I play an aspiring cult leader. It's weird. It's really weird and really fun. So check that out. 7 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays here. Right here, where you're watching now. All right. We're going to leave you with a song today. We're going to leave you with a song called The Prickle Holly Bush by the Merry Wives of Windsor. And you can find them at mwow.net. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore.
Come slack your horse, cries Joan. Come slack it for a while. For I think I see my father dear riding over yonder stile. Did you bring gold? Did you bring silver to set me free? Or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree? I've no gold, I've no silver to set you free. For I have come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree.
Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore.
Come slack your horse, cries Joan.
Come slack it for a while, for I think I see my sister dear riding over yonder stile.
Did you bring gold?
Did you bring silver to set me free? Or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree?
I've no gold,
I've no silver to set you free, for I have come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree. Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore.
come slack your horse, cries Joan.
Come slack it for a while, for I think I see my true love dear riding over yonder stile.
Did you bring gold?
Did you bring silver to set me free, or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree?
I brought gold,
I brought silver to set you free, for I've not come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree. Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks my heart full sore. And now that I'm out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore. Oh, the prickle holly bush,